Chapter 43. Leaving of the Body by Sainath. I bow down Shri Ganesh, I bow down Shri Saraswati, I bow down the Guru, I bow down the family Dinte, I bow down Shri Sita Ramchandra, I bow down Shri Sadguru Sainath. In the last chapter, the narration of the leaving of the body by Saint Sai Samartha was given. Now, what remains unfinished will be completed in this. My unique love for Sai has been kindled by that Samartha. Hemad has surrendered at his feet and outlines the story. It is he who gives a liking for devotion. It is he who increases the greatness of the stories. It is because of him that worship through bhajan has attained glory and brings about aversion to this mundane world. Therefore, with my whole heart and soul, I do obeisance to him countless times. I cannot even fully think of his greatness in meditation, but it is possible only through complete surrender. In order to completely wash off the accumulated defilement of the sins and to have self-purification, other means are futile. There is not another simpler way to have self-purification than to remember the glory achieved by the devotee of God and to do bhajans and kirtan of that glory. So be it. Let us recollect the story already narrated in the last chapter and deliberate over it. Then we may proceed further with the narration of Sai's merger in self-bliss. Earlier it has been narrated in detail why the leaving of the body took place on Vijayadashmi and how the future was predicted using Tatya's name as a pretext. Later, just before leaving the body, adhering to religious tradition, how he gave the money to Lakshmi. All that has been described fully. Now, in this chapter, I will narrate how Sai listened to the Ramayana for his own benefit as read by a Brahmin as the time for leaving the body approached. Also, how the place for the Samadhi was chosen and how unexpectedly the brick had fallen down. Listen to it attentively. Also, how once he raised his prana high up and went into Samadhi for 3 days. How could it be Samadhi? People were absolutely certain that it was the leaving of the body. Preparations for the rites was made, but unexpectedly Baba attained consciousness and the people were taken aback. Listen to how it all happened. So be it. Listeners will be erect by hearing the story about the leaving of the body. No one likes to hear such a story. But this story of the leaving of the body of the saintly sage will purify the listeners and the narrator. For the fear of its being lengthy, listen to it in parts till you are satisfied. By leaving the body, he became inaccessible, but for him it was a blissful state. Baba attained the eternal state, never to be born again. He was visible when he was in body. After leaving the body, he was not perceivable. His avatar at one place for one mission ended, but he was at all places and all pervasive and omnipotent. He was freed from being born to one place and was all pervasive. He became absolutely eternal and merged with the Supreme Self. Sai was the reason for everyone's life itself. Without Sai, the villagers were devastated. When his body became lifeless, there rose a wail of sorrowing agony. The old and the young, disturbed by grief, seemed to become lifeless themselves. Fear and other alignments which affect the common man do not unnecessarily trouble saints and ascetics. By kindling their own luster, saints extinguish their own bodies. Baba did the same with his own hands. What should never have happened had happened. Maharaj became one with the Supreme Spirit. The people were dispirited, sobbed, and whimpered. It would have been better if I had not left. I missed meeting him in the last moment. If I had been there, I might have proved useful in some way. My wits were not about me at the right time. In this manner, with simpler thoughts, all and sundry felt dejected. Who could know what Baba had in mind? There was no dearth, rattle, nor troublesome breathing, no cough, no shivering, nor any struggle. He passed away easily and peacefully. Now how could there be Sai's darshan or pressing of Sai's feet or drinking of the tirtha? Knowing the time for the end had come, then why were the loving devotees sent away, though they had been so near? Why were they made to undergo this anguish? Seeing the whole assembly of near and dear ones at the time of passing away, could Baba's love have sprung up for them then? Bonds of attachment come in the way of attaining salvation. If they are not broken at the right time, how can the mind be free of desires? If death comes when this has not happened and life leaves with these desires and attachments, then immediately another cycle of existence starts with a flood of attachments. To avoid this, saints and sages are always alert. Baba's determination also was only to practice the custom prevalent among people. In the last moments, one should be alert about this. There should be peace and solitude, and the chosen deity's image should be fixed in the mind without any distraction. One is reborn according to one's last thoughts is the well-known axiom. Saints themselves practiced this to maintain the prevalent custom. Where there were only 14 days left for Baba's passing away, Baba appointed Wazi to read Ram Vijay. Wazi sat in the masjid and began the reading of the holy book. Baba began to listen to it. Thus 8 days passed. Then Baba ordered that the book be read without a break. So Wazi read it in this manner for 3 days and night. He sat for full 11 days. Later he was tired and felt weak. He was exhausted with the reading. In this way, 3 more days passed. So what did Baba do later? He stopped the reading. He sent Wazi away from there and kept quiet himself. Listeners would ask the reason for sending away Wazi. So here what I am going to explain to the best of my ability. Hear it with concentration. It is the practice of saints, sages, and wise people to listen to religious books when the time for the passing away is near. Acharya Shukar recounted the Mahabhagavat in 7 days to King Parikshit, who heard it and attained death happily. While listening to the Leelas of the Lord and keeping the image of the Lord before one's eyes, if one passes away, then one attains the ultimate goal. This is generally the trend amongst the common people. The saints practice it themselves without fail. They do not break tradition because they manifest protected. They who disregard their body made of 5 elements, they have no pain or sorrow at the time of death. This is just natural for them. So be it. Your listeners may doubt if persons who are engrossed in supreme bliss could be troubled by illusion and greed. How could one even think about it? One would abide in the self and always uttered One who abided in the self and always uttered Allah Malik, how could he be entangled by the nearness of his devotees? He had transcended the world, his spirituality remained. Duality did not at all exist for him. He became one with the Supreme Spirit. What I am telling you is nothing but the truth, word for word. There is no trace of untruth in it. But taking avatar for the good of the people, saints gratified knowing that they have fulfilled their mission. The saints are free from the 6 vices and passions. They are always present, invisible to the eyes. They take form only for the salvation of the devotees. How could they have death? The conjunction of the body with the senses is being born. Their separation is death. This joining and separation is called birth and death. Birth is doggedly pursued by death. They are inseparable. Death is the natural state of life, and living is life's distortion. Those who remain after overcoming death and even control death, how could they be concerned about their lifespan when they have manifested by their own wish? He who takes different avatars with the only desire of the welfare of the devotees, how can he be touched by birth and death? These are both illusions. Know that he who has reduced the body to ashes even before acquiring it, how can he have any fear of death? Death is reduced to ashes before him. That itself is body's natural state. Death itself is the happy state for the body. Life is body's distortion. Ask the wise ones. Sai Samartha, the cloud of bliss, who did not know about the birth of his body, how could his body experience death? He does not know about the body's existence. How could there be birth or death for Sai, who is but a Brahma himself? Knowing that Brahma is truth and the world a mirage, how could he have body consciousness? Taking on life or abandoning it or roaming the space formless is done at will by the power of yoga for the benefit of the devotees. The sun has been eclipsed and has disappeared completely, say the people, but it is merely the fault of the sense perception. The death of saints is likewise. The body is merely a burden. How can they have pain or suffering. If they have any, it is because of the bonds of fate, but they are not concerned. He who manifested because of the past meritorious deeds of the devotees and was filled with devotion invisibly, he appeared for the welfare of the devotees. It was then that he was received in Shirdi. It was said that now the work of the welfare of the devotee was completed and therefore he abandoned the body. Who will place faith in these words? What is life and death for a yogi? Sai Samartha abandoned his body as per his